So welcome everyone to the July Birmingham AWS meetup. We are now about 5 or 6 months deep into these, and regular attendance has been great. So thank you all for bearing with us through the virtual sessions and COVID. It's actually, we were just talking before the start, it's actually been terrific because AWS have been very generous with their time and a lot of their team to dial in virtually and participate and give us a lot of really great content and input that typically might not have been as easy given travel to do in-person meetups. So a few things for this, few announcements. You may have seen over the last few weeks, we've been promoting the BHM AWS website, great place to go. Resources, anything related to the local meetup. We also post our advanced schedule of events there. Right now we're booked through the end of the year. Also, please follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube. LinkedIn also, a lot of our announcements come through there, and we post all of our video content and recaps of sessions on YouTube. So we hope that you'll check that out, share it, and follow us on those. Upcoming events. Next month, August 27th, Corey Harris Jr. will be back for the third in his series with data lakes, this time focusing on AI and machine learning tools in AWS. And September, we've got a load balancing and auto scaling presentation. October 29th will be a first for us. We're going to conduct a panel conversation with some cloud security leaders from around the area. We're pulling that roster together now. Hope to announce that finalized in the next couple of weeks. But that's going to be a great opportunity for everybody to interact with some of our heavier security organizations around Birmingham and how they're implementing AWS, and some good chat back and forth on concepts and challenges with that. And last but not least, November 19th, Mr. Chapman, who's presenting today, will be back with us again to sort of build on the content and the topics that he presents today. 2021, we're booked through the end of the year. We are working now on the early part of 2021 to keep our topics and conversations going. So anyone in the local community, we would love to have some local presenters mixed in with this also. If you or yourself or anyone you know would be interested in presenting, we'd love to hear from you. Similarly, if any requests for topics, things that the community wants to hear about, we'd be happy to try to pull together some good content on that. So send any requests or suggestions to bhmaws@gmail.com, and we will definitely be happy to follow up on those. Stickers. So we've got our Birmingham AWS stickers. We sent a batch of those out to attendees of last month's meeting. Hope everybody got those by now. Anybody who wants them today, send a message to myself or Justin with a mailing address, and we will get those out in the mail in a few days to you. Once you've got your stickers, post a photo on LinkedIn, tag it BHM AWS. Anybody who does that, we're going to do a drawing for Uber Eats gift cards on August 15th. So just a little bit of fun to have with those stickers. All right, that's it. Chris Chapman is on deck, AWS Partner Solutions Architect. Want to thank him for putting this demonstration together today and for joining us to do this. We think it's going to be a great topic. We've also got Taylor Anderson here from the Elastic BeanStalk team at AWS, Senior Product Manager, who'll be joining along with Chris for some Q&A at the end of today's topic. So with that, I will hand it over to Chris.
Yeah. So thank you for the intro and everything. We're going to be working through a DevOps pipeline here for Windows workloads. So we're going to be checking in I just grabbed the sample .NET application. We're going to be checking that in. We're going to see that get deployed to an Elastic BeanStalk, which has some auto scaling and load balancing built into it. So this is a real good way. Maybe if you're migrating some of your workloads from on-prem to AWS, you don't want to go full containers or serverless yet, but you don't want to do just that lift and shift where you're doing just EC2 instances. You want to have some of that scalability built into it. This is a great platform to do that on. And then the other big part of this will be Service Catalog, which is a way to not only provide these tools to people so that they can provision on demand, but it's going to give you that replicatability throughout your all your teams. So you can standardize the process, you can build in the security, the logging, all of the pieces that are important to you, your Cloud Center of Excellence and your security team. You have all that baked right in. You hand that off to the users, and you're going to see how easy it is to get this stuff up and running for your end users. So we're going to start off today. One of the first orders of business we got to do is we got to get, if you want to follow along with me, I have a number of accounts. They're free accounts. They're just burners. They'll be online for a couple hours so we can do this. So if you want to actually do this with me, you're more than welcome to do that. I'm going to, here in a minute, I'm going to cut my video, and we're going to screen share, and you can follow along with me if you don't want to do it and just see how it all works, or raise your hand and we'll start passing out these accounts. Done a few of these virtual things, and I think the best way to do this is to do it one at a time. So I'm going to post a link, and then I want someone to click on that link and start logging into the console. But first, just reply. So if you can open up the chat, you'll see that chat window there. I've got a link. If someone will just say, "Hey, I got it," and then I'll post the next one, and that way we don't get confused, and we've got links coming out to people. So if you want, and I'll just keep doing that until everybody that wants to do this has a link. There we go. Yeah, and I'll say while I'm doing this, we're going to have to move kind of fast through some of this, and there will be a bit of dead time while some of the build containers are coming online and some other stuff. So we want to be able to get through to the parts where we can pause, and then we can go back. We can talk about the cloud formation and whatnot during those dead times while we've got some compute going on the build process, or just spinning up like the elastic BeanStalk environment. Does someone want that next link? This will be easy if only one person wants to follow along. Okay, there's one more. All right, here comes number 3. Yeah, I've got plenty of these, so if you want to follow along. If not, that's also fine. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started then. It looks like we got a couple people want to follow along, and most people are just going to watch here. Let's see here. Okay. One more link. So if you're following along, or if you're not, all of the content for this lab will be right in there. So we want to click on that. I'm going to turn off my video and share my screen. Okay, so if you follow that link, we've got a reference architecture here. There's a subsection called Elastic BeanStalk. And what you want to do is make sure you've signed into your, make sure you've signed into that. Oh, sorry, I'm messing with my mic here. Let's sign into that link that I just sent you if you're following along. Let's double check that you're not in your own account. The AWS console is really good at tossing you back to where you were. In this particular case, we want to make sure we're in that event engine account, which you should see up here at the top where my mouse is, this team role / master key, and then some stuff. So just double check that you're there and you're not in your account or your company's account if you've been signed in before. And that'll just take you to the console here. I happen to be in Cloud Formation right now, but okay. So what we want to do is we want to then go over to this, the reference architecture. We're going to right click and we're going to open in a new tab on this launch stack button. Hopefully you see that. And this is going to take all of these Cloud Formation templates. It's going to build a service catalog environment for us in this account, okay? Most of this you can leave under linked role 1. We want linked role 1. I've just highlighted it here. We're going to do team role, which again is this role that you get automatically logged in as if you're using the event engine. So we're going to put team role into this linked role 1 and then leave everything else alone. And we're just going to hit next. We're going to hit next again. There's some blue check boxes down here. We want to make sure we get those checked. And then we're going to create the stack. So then we're in the, now we're in the Cloud Formation console. And this is where all of our infrastructure as code is concentrated. So Cloud Formation, if you're not familiar with AWS or how all this works, Cloud Formation is our templating language. And we are now launching templates into our AWS account. It's going to build out a couple things. You're going to see some nested stacks popping in here. And again, all of this is back here on this reference architecture. We're just launching all of these templates into our account here. And it's going to create a service catalog portfolio with a couple products and then some launch constraints. So with Service Catalog, it's another front end for Cloud Formation. And the advantage here is that you have users and you want to give them immutable predefined templates. Again, with all that security and everything baked in. So that way your users are, not only are they already, by using those templates, they're already using how you want things to run in infrastructure as code and the templating, you're giving them all that ahead of time. But the other thing that Service Catalog does is it really creates a permissions firewall between your end users and these elevated permissions required to do things. So we're going to be doing a lot of stuff in here. We're going to be creating VPCs and S3 buckets and EC2 instances. So that's a pretty expansive list of permissions, but the end user will never have direct access to that. The end user is given access to Service Catalog, and then Service Catalog is granted access to those roles and permissions. So there's no elevation of permissions. There's no assuming roles. We've really got just a nice, clean designation. Here's the permissions that Service Catalog needs to do this, and then I give my end users access to Service Catalog. The other advantage here is that we can really narrow down the required information for our users. A lot of times we talk about building things for data scientists or developers, and some of those people may not even know what a VPC is or an availability zone. Which one do I choose? So really, when we're building templates for Service Catalog, I like to say we're architecting with the end user in mind. And we're trying to make it as simple as possible for them to do this while also providing all of the security and logging and best practices in the template. So they don't need to just click around in the console and figure this out. So at this point, I think I've talked long enough. We've got all of our stacks are green here, and you can see there's a number of things. We got our products. I'm going to switch over to Service Catalog now. So if you go up to the top there in Services, start typing Catalog, it will take us over to Service Catalog. Now, for this particular demonstration, we are both the administrator and the end user. Normally, there would be you would be one or the other. Very rarely would you be both. Although we do have customers that use Service Catalog for their administrative tools, just because it's so much easier to spin up large collections of resources at the same time. So it's going to initially dump us into this administration view. We want to go in and we're going to put our end user hat on, and we're going to be maybe a development lead. We've got a new project coming online. We need to get an MVC .NET application up and running on a scalable Windows 2019 server. So that's what we're going to do now. So at this point, we want to get this top products, the very top one. Make sure you're not under the administration. What happened here? Man. I am missing some products here somehow. Okay. I think the console just didn't load up for me there. Let's go back to products. Now this is going to be good, huh? Okay. Yeah, give me a second. I'm gonna switch out of here and go to my backup. All right, sorry about that. I'm gonna pull up this backup option here, screen one. Okay, I should be back in here. Just switched over to a different account here, so pardon me while we got to relaunch those stacks. So I'm waiting for that to happen. Not sure what's going on with that event engine account. Okay. So while we're waiting for this to come on, there's another advantage with Service Catalog is you can enforce tagging, and you can make people choose tags, and you can also enforce what those tags look like. So this again goes back to in AWS, a lot of your cost exploration or tying together groups of resources back to a certain team. Maybe you've got a cost center or a chargeback thing that you've got to do, or you just want to know all of the different individual resources that are going together for a particular project in an account, or across many accounts. We have some great marketplace partners like Apptio's Cloudability that can look across all AWS accounts, and they can see those tags and then associate all those resources back to the costs and tie them back into things like reserved instances and spot instances. So when you're doing that cost management and just resource management in general, your tagging is very important. And with Service Catalog, you can enforce that on your users. That there's the classic, you want the development, what phase is it? QA testing, prod, right? And somebody types in lowercase prod, the next guy types in development, all one word. So you can really enforce what those tags look like ahead of time, and that way that helps you with your management overhead. This is going to be painful, isn't it? What is going on here? I don't know what has happened to my it just ran through this too, man. You know what? I'm gonna. All right. I'm sorry, guys. This is. I don't know if anyone else is following along with those other accounts. If you're having the same issues.
Yeah, I don't have anything in my product list.
Okay, something is going on.
This is the template name you have.
I just did this right before, like not even an hour ago. Okay, well, I'm not even going to try to figure this one out, but I switched over to Chrome. And now I have my three products, and I'm back in the original event engine. So if you're following along here, I'm back in my event engine account. So maybe try switching over to Chrome for this. Let's see how this goes. I'm just going to re-baseline ourselves. So anyways, we launched our portfolio. Everything was green. We're going to head over to Service Catalog. This is what we should have seen the first time we came in. I didn't even change anything. I just switched browsers here. I wanted products from the top. Okay, now what we want to do, we got three products in here. We've got an IDE that just makes it easier to run through the lab. You can, everything you're doing here today, you could do within Visual Studio or VS Code, or I don't know if you like Vim or Nano. You can go as extreme as you want with all that. We're going to go ahead and launch this code pipeline product. So this is really our DevOps pipeline. And I'm going to call this my sample pipeline, because I'm really original with my naming. And we're going to be working through a Windows workload. So I'm going to choose the Windows version of this pipeline here. There's also a Linux version if you want to do that. Do a pretty similar lab with Python. And I'm just going to make the Elastic BeanStalk the application name and the code commit repo name. I'm going to make those the same just for simplicity here. Here's where those tag options are. So if you've put a tag option library out there and you wanted to enforce tags, right here's where you could do that, in which case you'd have a key and a value and it would force the user to do that. For this example, we don't have that running. We can next through all that stuff and eventually get to a launch option here. And what we're doing, again, we're looking at this from the end user's perspective. So we've created quite a few different things. We've created a Git repo, which in AWS is called code commit. We've created a pipeline. So this is similar to Jenkins or some GitLab stuff. There's a lot of different ways to do these DevOps pipelines. In the AWS world, we're using that CodeStar suite. So code pipeline is going to take signals from code commit, which is our Git repo, and then it's going to kick off a pipeline which will build our application and package it, and then it will deploy it to our Elastic BeanStalk application, which we'll create next. So we can see all of those in here. We got the BeanStalk application itself, and then we got the code pipeline project. Now, when you're kicking these off, you end up in kind of a chicken and an egg situation here. So the way I usually do this is we get the code pipeline, the project set up, and then we're going to check our code into it, at which point we will have a compiled app, and then we can go into BeanStalk, the BeanStalk product, and we can launch that application. This is going to initially cause the code pipeline to fail because there's no application to update. So once we get both of those up and running, we'll make a change, we'll check it in, and then we'll see that that application gets updated automatically on BeanStalk when we do a check-in on master. So that's ultimately what we're doing here with the DevOps. You would additionally perhaps want to, if you've got your unit tests and stuff, you would want to alter some of these files to run your unit tests because that's another big part of the DevOps thing. We want to find out about those issues and bugs and errors and failed compiles. We want to find out about that before we release it to our end users, right? So I'm hoping here I've talked long enough. Our pipeline is now online. So we're going to go into that pipeline. So again, back to this architecting with the end user in mind. When you're doing this, your end users may have limited access to the AWS console. So you really want to try to give them all the information they need to interact with these resources through the Cloud Formation template. And right here, we're looking at the outputs of that template. And so what we want to do right now, we're going to copy this, this clone HTTP address. We're going to copy that because we're going to use that in our IDE here. So now we're going to go over to our Cloud9 IDE. We're going to launch that. I'll call that my IDE. And this is going to ask us some basic questions. You can give it a name. I always like to hibernate things. So one of the biggest things with cloud is you really should only be paying for what you're using when you're using it. So you want to go with the minimum instance, and you want to shut these things down when you're not using them. So that's why we've got the hibernate in there. And the other thing we've done here in Service Catalog via CloudFormation is I've restricted the instance types that you can use for this. Now, a lot of people might even go a step further in what we call t-shirt sizing and just have small, medium, and large. And then they are determining what kind of instances the users can do. And this is really for those end users. They might not even know what a T2 is or a T3. And you want to just kind of do that for them. And then, so down here is where we want to make a change though. So we're also going to automatically pull in our code commit repo into that IDE. So I had that URL. I'm going to paste it in both sections here. Make sure you get rid of any spaces. But then this one, this repo path, this is where that repo will show up locally in the IDE environment. So we just want / and then I just try to keep it simple. Just keep the name of the name of the repo there. So that will put this this bottom part. It'll put this code commit repo into our IDE in this path, and we'll see that in just a second. So just paste those two in there, and then we're going to next through all of this. And right now what we're doing, we're just setting up an environment. A lot of you would be using, especially if you're in the .NET world, VS Code or Visual Studio. I have some instructions. We can talk about that later on how to create code commit user credentials. And then you can put those into your Visual Studio and use that with its Git compatibility. So that's probably the way most people are going to go, but I didn't want to rely on everybody having their IDE and setting that up. So this just makes it easier to run through the exercises here. So now that is spinning up. While it's doing that, I'm going to head over. We're going to take off our end user hat, and we're going to be the admin for a second, and we're going to see what's going on behind the scenes here. So I'm going to head over to CloudFormation, which again, all of this is templates. It's all CloudFormation. It's just Service Catalog is providing us a different input into that CloudFormation, those templating worlds. And it holds those templates so that the end users can't mess with them. They really are immutable to your end users. Whereas if you're just handing out CloudFormation templates, your users could potentially mess with those templates before launching them. So depending on how secure you need your infrastructure environment to be, that might be important. But you can see on the back end what's going on. So I'm going to hit that Cloud 9. I'm going to scroll down here. Any of the tags will be passed into all those products and all those resources. So again, say you've got a LAMP stack, you've got an RDS instance, an EC2 instance. You would have all those tags automatically applied to all those resources. So you're really able to bind those together. And right here, we just have the default ones that Service Catalog will do. So going back, this IDE should be available at this point, so we can head into there. And we've got our URL that we need to access the IDE, so we're going to open that up. And this will bring up Cloud 9 for us, and we're going to see it pull down a couple repositories. I've got it set up. It's going to do two things for us. It's going to pull in that repo that we just did. So it's pulling in that .NET app repo that we just created in code commit. And then it's also pulling in the reference architecture repo. So you have all of those resources available as well. And of course, this .NET repo is going to be empty because we haven't done anything yet. So if you're following along, I've got all these commands here. The first thing we're going to do is we need a sample application. So I've prepared one. I'm going to find my chat window and I will paste that in there. Man, where'd my chat window go? There we go. Now we got the chat window. Oh, I see this question now. I deployed the launch stack button. Yeah. So here is a command. So we're going to, actually, I'm just going to paste all the commands all at once, and then we'll walk through them. So this is everything we're going to need, and then you'll see me walk through that. So we're going to pull down an application. We're going to unzip it. We're going to move it into our repo, and then we're going to check it in. That's all the stuff we're doing here. And again, I just went and grabbed the sample application from Visual Studio. So this is just the Hello World MVC C# application. So then we're going to move everything over from there into our repo. Normally you would be checking your code in, and then yeah, now we're just into the Git world. So we're going to go into our .NET app. And if you can't see what I'm doing, let me blow this up here. There we go. Okay, so we're in our .NET app. In the directory there, we're going to go git status. Okay, we got a bunch of new stuff, so we're going to add that all in. And then we're going to go git commit him first check in. And then we're going to push that up. Oop. Man, I'm getting killed on the random stuff going on here. How does that not match? Of course not. Something really dangerous. Start this over again. Not sure why I'm running into all these issues here today. This is fantastic, though. Okay, let's try this again. So if we're in here, ew, this is going to be hard to do with that zoom. Provision products, we want to go back to our pipeline. I'm going to grab this right here, go back to our, go git clone, just force this to all happen again. Copy all of this, I'll just do it right within the IDE. Let's see, in case we ran into some weird. All right, who knows? All right, the demo gods are against me today. All right, so that should have been that easy. Just trying to copy some code in here and push it up to our code commit repo. So now we can go back over here into our AWS environment, and we're going to head over to code commit. Oh, I'm in the wrong forgot I was doing this in Chrome. All right. Code commit. There's our repo. There's our stuff. So that got created when we created that first product. So again, going back to this service catalog thing, you know, maybe you've got multiple projects in a single account. You can continue to reuse this pattern. It's there for anybody on that account that needs it. And we see this a lot with customers. They might have separate accounts for separate environments. So maybe it's the same dev team, but they've got multiple accounts. Well, now they can just spin this up. They don't need to waste time going in and creating all of these assets manually. They can just go right into Service Catalog and commit these things, get them up and running, which is ideally what we're trying to show today, is how easy it is to get this up and running. So now we've got code commit running, and this can take a little while to spin up this this service, or sorry, the Windows container that's doing the actual build. But we can see the pipeline. We go in here, the pipeline has already picked up on our new commit, and now it's moving it through. So we're going to build, and then we're going to deploy. Now, this is very similar to how most other pipelines work. So if you go into this, oh, man, this is not going to be, oh, of course not. I didn't even get all the stuff in there. The copy paste does not copy everything. That's going to fail the build too. That'll be good. I'm just going to do this one thing at a time. There. There's weird stuff going on here. Okay, those files, man, browsers are not working for me. So the files were already there. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, they did get checked in. They're just not showing up when I look for it. All right, back to this pipeline. We'll see what we're doing here. So what this is doing is just bringing up a container, and then it's going to run those build spec files, which I was about to look at. So our Windows container is still spinning up here. So now what we can do is we can look at what's actually going on here. So we bring in this code pipeline here. We've got two stages. We got to build and we got to deploy. So let's look at build. So build, this is pretty standard, just running running an update, and then we're going to call ms build, and then I just threw a directory list in there so we could see what's going on inside of that release package area. And then we're going to move over, we need to move over 2 folders into the next stage. So that's what this last command. So we want that object folder with the release package set up. And then we also want this code pipeline folder because that's got our other build spec, which is going to run on that deploy stage. So we need to make sure it's there for that code build to pick up. So then we look at that. We just got, now we're over into a Linux worker here. We're just going to, again, just list that so we can just see all of our pieces are there. And we're going to copy our sample application over to S3. And then once it's in S3, it's going to create a version in Elastic BeanStalk, and it's going to update that environment to that new version. And so those are the stages we want to see happen. see if I talked long enough. This can take a few minutes to get up and running. So this is one of those dead spaces where we've got just a little bit of time. If anyone has any questions about where we're at, I can dive into something. Usually it takes about like 300 or 400 seconds to get that Windows container up to do the build. And then once it does that, it'll just move through these steps here. So if there's any questions, I can.
Hey, this is Elvis. I know the talk is more focused towards Elastic BeanStalk, but do you know how much customization do we get over that Cloud9 environment? Like, can we install additional tools, and how much of that is available to us if we have a team that, you know, needs specific capabilities on that environment?
That is a really good question, and unfortunately, I'm the wrong person to answer it. So I apologize. I don't know. I have not dived too deep into Cloud9. I just use it as a basic file editor here, and then for the console. So yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have a good answer for you on that. How much you can customize it.
No, it's fine. I was just asking because I have a specific problem right now, and I had forgotten about Cloud9, and it just like lit up as an idea, but it's perfectly fine.
It does make it really easy, and that's what I'm doing here. It makes it really easy to interact with AWS resources directly, because you can do instance profiles and you can wire up that security ahead of time, which is what we're doing right here with that code commit repo.
Hey, and this is Zach. What I can do is any questions that are outstanding, if you guys share them with me at the end, I don't have an issue. I'll share them with the larger AWS community and team and see if we can get some answers back out to the meetup group.
Yeah, so right now we're still just kind of in a holding pattern on this provisioning that container there. I can also show you the Cloud Formation that's kind of binding all this together. So I saw a question earlier about that. If we want to just go into this repo right here. So we have a lot of different sections. In general, they've got a quick little video on how you can do this. Most of these sections will have a launch stack button in them. The EC2 section in particular also has a tag option library built into it. So if you want to try this out, you can just launch that stack. If you launch multiple stacks, it will ask you about a create the end users. You can only do that once, so you'll have to select no on any stack after the first stack. But you can launch that stack. It gives you a portfolio with some EC2 instances in there, a Windows EC2 instance and a Linux EC2 instance, both of which have SSM maintenance windows. But then there's also a web server one with Apache or Nginx pre-installed. So you can see how some of those bootstrap scripts work within the service catalog environment, and really see how quickly you could provide resources to your end users. So then they're doing the on-demand, hey, I need a new web server for something. Just go into service catalog, fire it up. It's already patched into the VPC, the availability zones, again, all that good security and logging and best practices are baked in there. We also have in here, it's nearly the same thing as Elastic BeanStalk, but a containerized version of this. So if you want to check in code and have it run on a fully hosted Fargate cluster with ECS. So then the code will get validated, built into ECR as a Docker container image, and then you can then launch the service product, which will run that code on a container on Fargate. So very similar to what we're doing here with BeanStalk, but on the container side of things. And then in the container, we just got a couple pipelines. There's the .NET pipeline, there's the Linux pipeline, and then the actual BeanStalk application itself. And then these other ones, and you'll see this in every one of these sections, there's a portfolio and then products. The portfolio binds all of the products and the permissions, and it gives you a lot of that stuff that we see in Service Catalog. I'm going to hop over. Oh, good. Been talking long enough. It finally went through. Yeah, about 400 seconds. Excellent. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt myself and just show you. Okay, so now we see we've gone through here. We've called our build. Oh, that's the update, and then we're doing the actual build right here. And then it did all that successfully, and then it's moving over our files. So hopefully, if we go back to our pipeline, and we see a failure, which is what we would expect, because we do not actually have a we don't have a BeanStalk application that's up and running yet. But now we have the pieces that we need. So we have taken and we've put our released package and we've uploaded that to S3. So now we're in a position to actually run the BeanStalk image. This is working out pretty well on the timing because we're getting to the end here. So what we want to do is we want to go to S3. And we want to go to Service Catalog. So now we go back to our products and Service Catalog, and we're going to use that final product, the Elastic BeanStalk application, and we're going to launch it. And I'm going to call this my sample EB app. Okay, so now we need our S3. So now we got to point it, and this is just the first setup. We got to get it up and running. So we need to point it at something. So we're going to go in here, and we're going to copy this bucket name, which should be a long stream of random stuff for you. So there's the bucket. And then we also want this, this .NET .1 zip. So that's where the actual file itself is located, the bundle. So we're going to put that in there. And then we're going to give it a name. It's easiest just to give it that same name that we've been naming everything. If you want, there's some other, there's some additional stuff you can do, like Elastic BeanStalk is going to give you a DNS prefix, so you can set that yourself. I wouldn't do it right now because it can error out if you're not going unique and stuff like that. So we'll just leave that blank. And then you also have some control here out of the box on the scaling. Okay, so this is going to be a network-based scaling. And if the first instance reaches a certain threshold, then it's going to continue to bring on more instances to handle that volume. Up to 4 is what we're seeing here. So we're going to have at least 1. We'll have up to 4. And then additionally, you need the solution stack name. So this one is set for Python. We're going to delete that. If we go to this website right here, we can see all of the BeanStalk platforms that we support. We're going to go down because we're doing a .NET on Windows Server. And I'm just going to grab this solution stack name right here, the Windows Server Core 2019. And we're going to go back to Service Catalog, and I'm going to paste that in there. Just double check our spacing on the end and the beginning. So you're just pasting that right in there. That's telling Elastic BeanStalk what framework we need. And then we're going to hit Next. Next, next, and launch. And now we are kicking off our actual application. So we can follow along with that if we want. If we go to Cloud Formation, we can see what's going on in the background. There's our template. It's being created. It will spawn another template as part of the BeanStalk generation. You can track. This is also where you would go as an administrator to troubleshoot if there's permission errors or something like that. You'll find them here. And then once the BeanStalk stuff starts spinning up, then we'll also be able to follow along on the actual BeanStalk console itself. So that'll take just a minute or two. I can turn it back over for Q&A if people want to ask questions. Probably a good time for the BeanStalk people if Taylor wants to talk about anything, dive more into what's going on here. And I'll just interrupt back in here. I'll leave the screen up and keep this checking. But what we're going to see is our BeanStalk application come online here. And if we have any time, what we can do also is go in here and we can, man, that interface is just not showing us everything. We can go in here. I just needed to refresh it. And we can make a change and then check that in. And at that point, it will do this because our BeanStalk application is in place. It will do the update and we'll see our change live on the internet here in a minute. So that's what we have left. If you're following along, what you can go and do. This environment, if you're using one of the test environments, you can, or the burner accounts, you can play with that for a couple more hours, and we'll be shutting that down here later today.
Thanks, Chris. So yeah, Chris has put in a lot of work here to create a variety of different reference architectures within Service Catalog to automate the process of deploying to different AWS compute platforms. Of course, I think that's one for ECS as well as EC2, and this particular one is for Elastic Beanstalk. One question folks may have about, when would I want to use Elastic Beanstalk? Elastic Beanstalk as a service is designed to make it easy for you to host and scale web applications. It's really that simple. So the idea is that you just provide a source bundle, which in this case is being built using the pipeline, but really just provide a source bundle in the form of a zip file. And then again, if you're going through this pipeline, or if you're just going directly to the Elastic Beanstalk console, it's as easy as selecting an instance type, and then Elastic Beanstalk will return back a URL to you where you can navigate and access your web application. Elastic Beanstalk supports a variety of different runtimes. So if you've developed your application in Node or Python or .NET, or Go, or Java, or a variety of other different platforms or runtimes, you can just pick the corresponding platform with an Elastic Beanstalk and run your application. So, for example, if you're new to the cloud and you don't necessarily want to go down the path of learning a bunch of different services such as EC2 or load balancing, or learning about auto-scaling groups, you just want to get your application up and running quickly, Elastic Beanstalk can be one of the shortest paths to getting that initial round of success in migrating to the cloud for your application. So that's just a brief summary of Elastic Beanstalk, and certainly open to any questions around the service as well. Chris, how are we doing on the demo?
Yeah, the Elastic. Oh, can you hear me? The Elastic Beanstalk environment is spinning up here, and then as Taylor was talking, you can see, we just asked a couple questions in Service Catalog, and it's creating a lot of stuff. And we've got security groups, we got load balancers, we got auto scaling configurations. So there's a lot of complexity in here. I really invite you to dive into these templates if you want to know everything that's going on. But that's really the power of something like BeanStalk combined with Service Catalog. You can provide these types of highly complex environments to your end users, and they need to know very little about what they're doing. And you can even make this screen even more simple. If you know everybody's going to be using .NET, you can just hard code that value in there, so then your end users don't even need to know what that stuff is. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in what you're providing your end users with some truly powerful compute going on. So I'm just obsessively clicking refresh right now, but we see a lot of this stuff is spinning up and down. So we've got our CloudWatch events going in here. So our scaling policy. So again, there's a lot going on here to get this set of instances to load balance and scale automatically. And then, I was going to show you all of these. I was bringing that up. So we support a lot of these platforms natively with Elastic Beanstalk. So you can see all of those here. But that's pretty much it. I think we're running up to the last few minutes. I don't know if we'll actually have time to see it spin up or not. If you're following along, hopefully, oh, there we go. The cluster just created. So maybe right here at the end, without me running into all those little hiccups along the way, we can see what's going on here. So
Chris, it's on the URL.
Yeah. Oh, that was the other thing. Yeah. So let's look at this. So we don't have an output yet because this hasn't finished, but there is a load balancer URL. This will get piped into Service Catalog eventually, so your end users would have that URL. And right now we're still waiting for that environment. So it's at this point we can tell our load balancers are in place. We're routing correctly. We're onto the server instance, but we don't have the application there yet. So it's still firing some stuff off here in the background. And we can see that probably right here. The environment's still spinning up. So once all this completes, then we will have our sample application here. Yep, and then unfortunately we ran out of time. We won't be able to do an update unless people want to hang out afterwards. But that's the thing with this stuff. Sometimes it takes a minute or two for everything to spin up and come online. So, any other questions from people? Any questions about BeanStalk or Service Catalog management tools in general? We can even dive into some Cloud Formation if you want. Got a couple minutes. Good. We got some winners on the tickets there from Justin.
Hey, I'll ask a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm Johnny Newman. I am new to AWS. I'm trying to get more experience in this area, even looking at a position right now that I would be able to learn as I go. And I look at everything that you're doing, and there's an overwhelming amount of information here. So
certainly,
I guess my question is, where would you point somebody who's new for going through, online tutorials and any type of resources like that?
Yeah, great question, and there's so much depth here with just what we're running here. It depends on how you learn. How I would answer that question. If you're start messing with stuff and breaking it, ideally, if you're working for a company that has like a sandbox environment or something where they're really trying to breed that learning and innovation spirit, you would be able to get in there, mess with some of these templates and try it out. I really highly recommend people start with the templating and just get in from that from the get-go. That's where most enterprise companies want to be, is on this infrastructure as code and templates, whether you're, for any of them, any of the cloud providers in general. You can do a lot just in the console, and that's a good way to learn as well. And seeing both at the same time, maybe that's helpful. So we just generated this template and ran it, and then you can go into the console and you can see all of the pieces that it put into place. And for example, to make things even more confusing, we can see what's going on in EC2 here in the background. We've got some instances running for our IDE and BeanStalk, and we can go down here to our load balancers. We can see all of the pieces that it put together. So this is a really good way to learn, how did our template do this? What kind of listeners do you need? So that's one thing. The AWS samples in general, I really like that. Not just the reference architecture for Service Catalog, but AWS samples at large is really great. We're constantly updating this stuff. This EKS workshop is fantastic, by the way. If you want to learn about Kubernetes on AWS, it'll walk you through a lot of the basics. Excuse me. And then another thing I recommend is we have a lot of certifications. So maybe just going down the certification route. We've got just the basic level one. I'm trying to remember what that's called. Cloud something.
Cloud practitioner.
Yeah, thank you. Cloud practitioner. And then work your way through the associate and the pro certifications. That's a really good way to learn about a lot of different services along the way and get yourself a certificate. There's a lot of great partners out there like A Cloud Guru, who just bought Linux Academy. So if you, again, if you've got the funds or your company is providing you that learning funding, you can get on there for A Cloud Guru and through Linux Academy, spin up these burner accounts, try things out, work through the labs. And then additionally, both of those are available through AWS Marketplace. So if your company already has some spend with AWS, then they can start to work on that learning spend as well, and bring that into their generalized AWS monthly bill and spend. So there's a lot of options out there for your company to help you learn and then yourself to learn.
Okay, appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny, I'd add one thing on this. In Chris, I think A Cloud Guru is probably the best starting point. They have a bunch of different courses. It's that self-paced learning. I actually think we just went through this with another customer. They have enterprise versions, and they also have individual versions. I think it's on a monthly, as needed, basis where you can just throw your credit card information. I highly, highly recommend you pursuing that avenue.
Okay, cool. I've got that one circled. Thank you.
Yeah, and while we're talking, I'm just going to do this update so you can see. I don't know if you noticed in the background, but the web page did come online if you're still watching the screen. So we have that, and then the BeanStalk environment came online as well. So I'm just going to push out that update, and we might still be around when it's running. See, the pipeline's already picked it up. This is really I think the goal of a lot of companies is to have these pipelines in place, and then you take it one step further and you template the pipeline itself, and now you're really enabling that. And we've got some pretty high profile companies that have worked with us, like GoDaddy, for example. They did a big presentation with our work. We did, again, Service Catalog, DevOps, there's serverless in there, BeanStalk, and just enabling their entire development organization, like not just a single team, but thousands of teams, to get this stuff and just really easily spin up an account and have all the tools they need to start coding. And that's where you're getting if you just go down that templating route initially. I recommend that for companies and for individuals. That's going to put you in the strongest position for the skill set and then where companies want to be. So great. I think we hit the timer. Any other questions, or I'll turn it back to the meetup folks.
Chris, this is Sergey speaking. I have a question.
Yep.
It's about the Elastic BeanStalk itself. I was trying to follow what you were doing, and I missed that initial part. And actually, it was just an example how to get something all this. It was not actually subject of a conversation. It was kind of pre-requested to do this nice Elastic BeanStalk stuff. So it's it was an example. But okay, I just went ahead and just created a simple application and a BeanStalk, and I just picked example Glassfish app, and it just it created it uses Cloud Formation stack to create EC2 instance, load the app, everything cool. The question is, okay, I have an application and I just can deploy it, yes. But what about all these little parameters for example, some kind of like credentials, all these things, and especially if you have like an application and it is built and like, tested in one environment, and then you need to take it to another environment. And for example, we use Amazon parameter store for that.
Mm-hmm.
To provide all these little things like login passwords, all this at application start. But it requires some kind of customized like startup scripts, all the things. And how is all this with BeanStalk? So for example, I can save a lot of time just not creating all this, CloudFormation templates and just use the BeanStalk. But is that BeanStalk that customizable, that convenient to not just like deploy Hello World application, but something like more like close to real life, like when, hey, we need to change this parameter, or just something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to say two things real fast, and then I'll turn it over to the Elastic BeanStalk folks. So I would say on the first part, the templating is actually going to be easier for you if you, even on the SSM parameters, if you can template those, you can move them around between accounts much easier. You can use CloudFormation stack sets, and then you can blast out the exact same template to all your environments. And that's where a lot of companies want to be, where when you move from dev to prod, there's probably a wall there that you want where prod should match dev. And the best way to do that is to lock down your prod environment so that only infrastructure templates can be used to spin those resources up. And that way it's matching the best. And then that transition is just even easier to do. So that goes back to, again, the templating, the infrastructure as code, and the automation. There's an initial hump to get it set up, but then in the long run, you're saving so much more time not needing to click around in the console. And the worst case scenario would be to click around in the console and you've got like a checklist in front of you and to miss one of those steps. Well, the templates are going to be the same every time. So that would be my comment on how to make that easier. I'll let Taylor talk about BeanStalk. Unless we lost Taylor.
Hey, this is Shaker. I can take that.
Oh,
question.
yeah, go for it. Yep.
Hey, yeah. So we have BeanStalk provides environment variable support, so customers can add environment variables in the configuration page. But other than that, if customers are using something like SSM parameter store or secrets manager, you can use the EB extensions way, or you can pass the parameter store on in the application code. So very simple variables you can easily go and add in the environment variables. Chris, if you are looking at it, you could go to configuration.
Right here.
And yeah, you can search for environment variables there in the search box.
Okay. Yeah.
That's much easier.
I don't think I set any, so we're not going to see them here on this particular one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's none set in here. So.
Yeah. That's like if you are using SSM parameter store, the two easy ways to do that is you could write an EB extension script and put it along with your application code, or you can instrument your code such way that it references parameter store on.
Yeah, and I see people doing a combination of both. Some of your parameters you're going to template and hard code, and then others you need in that protected SSM space. So then you would just be doing a CLI call or a command call to the AWS to grab that information.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if how much further over time we want to go here, but I think this pipeline might be, yeah, it's still running.
My calendar's clear if you want to keep going.
Yeah. Well, there's not much to see other than while people were talking, I went and edited our the HTML page. So at some point this will run through and update that application, and then we can see it in here. Yep.
Hey, Wendy Rodriguez, if you want to PM me your email address, you're one of the Uber Eats winners. Sorry, Chris.
Oh no, you're fine. I'm pretty much done. So unless there's any other questions or anything, that's it.
Any more questions? Any more feedback for Chris, or just anything for the AWS team that's still here? Awesome.
All right. Well, Chris, I think Taylor already left, and Sekar, thank you guys very much for jumping in and doing this presentation for us, and for everybody that joined us today. Another great turnout.